Hi, I'm Dawn Crossan, owner of the Reston Letter, and this is the Reston Letter podcast. We love writing about our community, but we also love to talk to people. We hope you enjoy listening to the people we write about.
Hi there, hello, and welcome to the Reston Letter podcast. My name is Samantha, and today I am your host, here with Gwyn Whitaker, founder and CEO of Greenfare Organic Cafe, an educational cafe designed not just to provide meals, but to change lives. Gwyn, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. Yeah. All right, let's get right into it. So please share a little bit with everybody about your background, who you are, and how Greenfare came to be.
So this is chapter 2 after a career in technology. I watched a film years ago called Forks Over Knives, and it inspired me to share what I had learned in that field with people in the community. So we opened a restaurant pretty quickly. I signed a lease in September, and we opened in November, and we started delivering a program in December. And so we're in our 10th year, which is pretty crazy, and we've had over 2,000 people go through this program. A lot of famous people too. Daryl Green, the football players, come through twice. So it's been life-changing for people. It's an opportunity, I think, for people to learn about holistic health. Mm-hmm. So what the American College of Lifestyle Medicine teaches now, it's not just nutrition, it's sleep, it's exercise, managing stress, avoidance of risky substances, and then social interaction. So we try to provide what the optimal science shows in each of those different areas.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about how it's all connected. And Gwyn also is a regular contributor to the paper. You have a column in our opinion section. In the column's debut, you wrote that your health and wellness journey started from a personal experience.
Right.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. I'm curious, what inspired you to bring that knowledge specifically to this community?
The restaurant is five minutes from my house, which is great. I think Herndon tends to be a small community where people are pretty well connected, and the Herndon Center where we are was kind of a dynamic space. It used to be a Kmart, and it was kind of a depressed environment, and then Mom's Organic Market came in, and Sprouts and LA Fitness.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been a regeneration, I think, of that area. And so it's been a really fun opportunity to work with people that are sort of that mindset. They come there for a healthy experience.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, lifestyle changes, not for nothing, they can be tricky, especially when it comes to food. So how has the community responded to the idea specifically of plant-based eating?
When we started, I consider that we were sort of in the lunatic fringe. It was sort of an idea, and a small percentage of people had adopted that. And then as you started, I started looking more at the science. My engineering background, it's when I get interested in a topic, I do deep dives, and I usually reach out to a lot of leaders in that space. So I met with T. Colin Campbell, who's I think he's 67 years in research and cancer now. Mm-hmm. And he had gone to Virginia Tech, and he actually got married in Herndon. So he spent time talking with me, and he's been sort of my inspiration and true north of how to use the science to share that education with people.
That's awesome. It's common to hear folks talk about wanting to live a healthier lifestyle and not necessarily knowing where to start. Mm-hmm. So what baby steps have you seen make the biggest difference for folks that are in your programs?
I think the most interesting thing is finding trusted sources. I think the challenge for people now is that people, doctors usually haven't had nutritional education. People might go through an entire medical career and maybe get a single class in nutrition. Chefs don't take classes in nutrition. It's beautiful and it tastes good.
Sure.
And gym trainers, it's about building muscle, but not necessarily about holistic health.
Right.
So you see bodybuilder careers are one of the shortest careers out there. So what we try to do is use National Academy of Sciences data to show what the science shows in each of those different areas. We give people books, we give them government websites where they can they can check everything out. It's like, if you don't believe me, Google this, and it's not things that are going to sell a book or fad science. It's how do you show people to make changes so that they feel better, they look better, they sleep better, they have more energy in a pretty quick amount of time.
I would imagine that that's pretty empowering too, to be a supporter in real life, of course, with the programs, and then to also be providing the resources for them to go home and do more research as needed and deep dive themselves into areas that are of interest to them, right?
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me the most is how quickly people return to health. That when you dramatic changes give dramatic results.
Oh, I love that.
And most of the things in the United States, I think that people just assume that this is how, I learned in school, how it was reinforced in my work environment. And you go and you see, donuts and coffee, and it's like you make some tweaks for things. And when you do it as a community, then you start to buoy the community rises.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we've tried to create, whether it's books and bringing authors in to do lectures or dinner and a movie. It's how to inspire thinking to get people to the next level.
You're injecting the cool factor, as I say.
Absolutely.
There's always alternatives to everything. So with rising food costs, it's fair for folks to worry that something like this may be hard to sustain. So what advice do you have for staying within a budget or maximizing the food haul?
Yeah, so if you remember, during the Middle Ages, you had a king and the king's diet. And then the peons were people that worked in the fields, the farmers. They were always the healthiest. Mm-hmm. And the king had gout and obesity and heart disease. So today, if you go to the Burger King and the Dairy Queen, you can eat like a king and ice cream like a queen, and get those same diseases. So the things that are the least expensive are the beans and rice, corn and beans, whole grains, beans are very, they're probably the least expensive things that you can buy, but they're going to be the most filling and provide the best health. So they seem like they're the simplest because people have always aspired for richer foods, but that's not necessarily what we were supposed to eat.
Doesn't it do something like chemically to your brain as well when you're feeding that voice within with the Burger King, for example?
Yeah. It turns out we have one class on addiction, but the more that you eat a high fat, high salt, high sugar diet, the more you crave those things. In our microbiome, our gut bacteria, you actually get you're developing bacteria that are telling you to go get this thing. So sometimes you're like, I'm going to the store to get something, I don't even know why. It's not necessarily your brain. It's we're like the hive for the bees, the bacteria bees that are telling us go buy this thing.
Oh my gosh!
And keep me going. So.
Is there a clever alternative or a clever kind of treat, for example, that comes to mind? Once upon a time, maybe you were jonesing for a Snickers bar, and now what do you replace that with?
Yeah, so when people go, usually 3 or 4 days without added salt, oil, and sugar, that the food industry has sort of cultivated our sense of sweetness, fat, and saltiness.
And it's everywhere.
Then you start, your taste buds reset. And so if you eat a piece of fruit, it's sweet enough. Or you eat a handful of nuts, that's enough fat. So the food industry has packaged things to make it really easy to consume. If you think about Brazil nuts, they're the hardest nut to get into. It takes a couple minutes.
They're pretty dense.
Yeah, they're grown in trees in Brazil that are that are in these shells that look like coconuts. And when you crack they're harder than coconuts. And then they have all the little Brazil nuts inside those. And then each Brazil nut is a lot of effort to get that open. But you can go to Costco now and get organic Brazil nuts already cracked.
Already there.
So they have something called selenium, which boosts thyroid performance. And they can actually decrease your cholesterol. So Brazil nuts can be good, but if you overconsume, they can make your hair fall out.
Oh no.
So nature has sort of put these safeguards in place to keep us from over-consuming by making them hard to get into. and then the food industry sort of takes the rails off.
Totally. Well, and it's more rewarding, too, when you earn it. There's something satisfying
true.
about slowly peeling an orange and then getting to the sweetness that's inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, what opportunities do you see for expanding health and wellness education like we're talking about right within the community?
In 2019, I started the Fairfax Veg Fest, and we held that for 5 years. And then last year, it's a hard lift. I turned it over to another group. They held it last year, and I worked with them on the speakers. This year, we're going to be as a vendor, and it's at George Mason University. So they have speakers. One of the speakers is a chef from Sodexo. They do the industrial food,
That's
for
great,
the
right.
facility.
Like
and
at campuses,
they're
like
plant-based,
college campuses.
plant-based chef. So it's pretty cool. So it's going to these events where there's opportunities for education.
Will there be treats?
Of course. We'll be there as a
Samples and
vendor.
all?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a number of desserts there.
I love
so
that.
It'll be fun.
I'll have to check that out.
Very cool.
So how can people get involved? How can people connect with Greenfare? Are you on socials? Do you have a market presence? Things like that.
Yeah, we have a website, Greenfare, greenfare.com. I do a newsletter once a week. It's a little bit different than the one that I do for Reston Letter. Reston Letter gets a more polished, longer version.
What a treat. Thank you.
So and it's pretty fun to me. I guess I never really thought how much I enjoyed writing, but it's a different, when you put your thoughts down from your head, you have these fleeting thoughts, and when you have to organize it and put it together, it's pretty fun.
At this time, we'd like to take a quick moment to give a big shout out to our amazing sponsors of the Reston Letter. So a huge thank you to Foley Academy of Irish Dance, Oak Hill Psychological Services, Herndon Tech Computer Services, Realtor Connie Hartke, Hotworks Herndon, Nothing Bun Cakes Reston, Watts Fine Homes, and Sunset Hills Montessori School. We truly couldn't do this without your support, so thank you so much for sponsoring the Reston Letter. All right, and now let's dive back into the rest of the podcast.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our readers?
I think come by and try the restaurant, try some food, pick up a book, talk to some of our staff, and then maybe read my article that's coming out in the April publication. That's a story that I started thinking about after my dad had an unfortunate fall, and he talked about how a forward roll saved his life. So it'll be inspiring and a little bit funny, hopefully.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you at the cafe, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Thank you.